And I think it's a mentality when you own a business, take it, own it, know you can do it.
Yeah.
There's that gut feeling. You knew I wanted to own a business. I knew I could do it. Because either at the end of the day, if you're totally honest with yourself, either I can own a business or I'm meant to work for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Own that. There's nothing wrong with either way. You don't have to be a business person to be successful. You can work for a company and build yourself up from there. There's nothing, but people are embarrassed to say that and to own that. And if you know it, you're going to be way better at owning a business or way better of an employee. But just own it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Blueprint Podcast with your host. I'm Zach Heyer.
And I'm Spencer Maxwell.
And today I am extremely excited for the guest that we have on here. I think that she's going to be able to provide a lot of value to everyone, but specifically our women business owners and entrepreneurs.
Love it.
And aspiring entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
She's probably too humble to say this herself. So that's what I'm here for. I'm going to say it. So she is a health insurance broker, owns her own brokerage. And last year for 2023 was in the top 3 performing brokers in the United States of America. Mm-hmm. It doesn't stop there, people. She was the number 1. No one ahead of her. Number 1 female broker in the country. Nobody did it better than Miss Stephanie Iiams. Welcome to the Blueprint Podcast. It is a pleasure.
Thank you. That's an amazing intro. I need that every morning. I can tell you that. So thank you.
I know we try to hype you up. That one time I was at your office and you're like, me? You want me on the podcast? What did I do? And you're just too humble to say it yourself.
Way
so
too
Zach's got to hype you up.
I mean, that's what I'm here for. You
do a great job of it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. We like having people on here that are no strangers to success, and you fit the mold.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the female audience, but it's not just for the females either. I mean, Stephanie is a very successful insurance broker, like we said. She's a motivation to all, but definitely an inspiration to female entrepreneurs out there. So I guess, Steph, get right into it. What makes you? Tell us a little bit about your professional story, journey. Go ahead.
Well, what I can say is it has been definitely long development. So I come from, my dad was a quality engineer. Just every day, how I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and very young I wanted to be, because he was laid off. I came home, he was on the couch and just not even watching TV, just staring. And my mom hadn't come home yet. This is before cell phones. That's how old I am. But so no one knew. And I was the first one to walk in after school, had a great day. I'm ready to go. I played sports. And my dad was silent, and he just looked at me and with a tear in his eyes. And he said, I've been laid off. And he was the primary income. So, back then you didn't have the internet searching and stuff like that. So I knew at a very young age, I didn't want to have someone else have that control over me. I always knew I wanted to be a female. I had dreams to go to New York. I was going to be into marketing. The car was going to pull up every day to pick me up, to take me to work. I always knew I was sociable. I always knew that I loved the marketing aspect, the development of products, how they come from beginning to end. But unfortunately, things come along in life. You get bumps along the road, so you start working for someone because you move out on your own. My husband and I met when we were in high school. He's 2 years younger than me, and we've been together. God bless that man. He's put up with a lot. So I've had a lot of career changes. And so, I went, oh my gosh, I did tuxedos. I've always managed. I've managed since I was 17. So I knew how to manage people. I learned a valuable lesson at tuxedos because of the fact that I worked with a lot of business owners. And so a gentleman taught me then, never judge somebody by the book of, what you see. He was a high dollar horse trader. He taught me then, never judge me. Came in with his American Express. I'm like, oh, guy smells like crap, literally, because he just came from the horse stalls.
Oh.
And so I told him, I said, I want to be a business owner. And he goes, well, don't judge anybody. Always help everybody at every level. It'll come full circle back to you. So I had another person who said, you shouldn't be rewarded for the things you're supposed to be doing already. I've had a lot of people along the way. I think everybody has, to get you to a point that when you own your own business, you come back and you remember all of those things.
Yeah.
So that was one of the parts I went through. I've been 20 years in the medical field of all levels, contracting, claims. Before the medical field, I was actually a site manager for Delphi GM.
Yeah.
So we were contracted for them. So back then, on a female side, being in the auto industry, it was very challenging. I was the one walking in, to General Motors with unions and trying to negotiate contracts with them. And I remember the first time I was pregnant, I was 7 months pregnant, and to behold, I mean, it's what they were used to, their environment, not a 7-month-old female or a 7-month pregnant female walking in.
Mhm.
And they just weren't taking me serious. And because I was getting very upset, and a gentleman's like, wow, maybe you should go sit down. And I, right then and there, was like, please don't tell me how to, control my emotions. I'm upset because right now everybody's being disrespectful to the situation. And so I had to learn at a very young age, you have to control the environment. You have to control the room, male or female.
How old were you when that
Oh,
happened, when you were 7 months pregnant?
so I was 29. And I
Okay.
mean, I wasn't 23. I was still 29-year-old female.
In a room full of like other men who are
50s,
probably
60s,
mid. Yeah.
I mean, old school automotive
Mhm.
people.
Yep.
Nothing against it. It's a wonderful industry.
Yeah.
But it was just an old school mentality of female still. I mean, we weren't allowed to wear dresses. You had to wear pants, no heels, and I wasn't on the floor where you had to wear steel-toed shoes. So I would walk in, I mean, there were female workers, but there
Mhm.
weren't a lot of female in upper management.
Yeah.
And every 6 months we were fighting for our contracts, just like contractors do. And so, but unfortunately, Delphi shut down. I mean, things just happened. So we lost the business, which was my family business. So,
Yeah.
but I learned a valuable lesson there too. So by my dad, because he was done, same as me, or same as what I saw, said, I don't want to work for other people. I want to work for someone else. So he opened up his own business and, did his own thing. And that's what I went to work for him. But what I learned from that was never also have one client.
Yeah.
The majority of our client was Delphi. So when that happens, again, something else is out of your control. So I believe diversification. I mean, again, those are the little things you learn, the experiences that I learned myself that I feel put me into my business today.
Yeah.
So went to work for a dental practice. We got him to top 5% single producer as a dental in the country, which is very hard in the dental field to do because most dentists are like multiple dentists, just one.
Yeah.
So that's where I learned a lot of. I went through nursing school because I thought I wanted to be a nurse. I got second pregnancy. I had to quit nursing school 1 semester away from graduating.
Oh my
but
gosh.
my daughter
Wow.
became very sick. So I learned to juggle a lot.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, my mom passed away 2 weeks before my daughter was born. So in the middle of nursing school, middle of birth, middle of my mom, she unfortunately died from breast cancer. So, and my son, I was the one taking her to all the appointments, working, school full time. So you learn to juggle, which as a business owner is very valuable skill set,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, because we wear many hats. Life came along, again, my husband, he just tugged along with me as I said,
Yeah.
okay, I want to do this now. I want to do this now.
Mhm.
My old dentist, he was a very good friend of mine. And he said, you're meant for more than this, and I said, I'm just itching. I gotta do something else. And I was like, I knew I wanted to become a business owner, always knew, but I didn't know what.
Yeah.
That was always your thing, right? You pick up all these skill sets, but what do I want to do? I know I want to own a business. I want more control of my future. I know I'm good with people. I know I'm good. Well, health just kept coming in. I'm health industry. I know
It's a recurring
insurance.
theme.
A little old lady once came to me, bless her little heart, still know her name. In fact, she still has her policy with me. And she put her hand on my arm. And when I was at the nose, she's like, I wish you could just help me pick up my health insurance. And I was like, well, I don't do that. I'm running, I can help you schedule your dental. I can help you with your dental insurance. I'll
Yeah.
explain it to you. And that was it. And all of a sudden it just kept eating away. And I said, well, why can't I? And I asked my husband. So a good partner of mine, he has been in the health insurance broker. He's been individual. Well, now he's an agency, but he's been doing it for 20 years. And I thought, well, I'll just ask him.
Yeah.
And he will contest to it. And he just said, the minute I emailed him asking a question, he was like, oh my gosh, she's going to be amazing. Like she's got what we need because we only deal with full-time
Yeah.
brokers because I have a team of brokers and we only deal with full-timers, like people who are serious about being business owners. We don't want
Yeah.
people who dip their toe. We want serious people. And I told him, I said, well, I'm going to do this part-time. And he was just like, well, I don't do part-timers. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to do it part-time. I have a full-time job. I'm half my income for our household.
Yeah.
I can't give everything up for my household. I can't. I'm not going to sacrifice. My husband does a lot of sacrificing. I'm not sacrificing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, okay, fine. Try. I went 2 months part-time, because I worked Monday through Thursday. So I had Fridays off. I would go to the gentleman's house and he's like, okay, you can keep trucking at this, but a real business owner is going to be full-time and they're going to passion about their business.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my husband and he's like, listen, I know you'll do this. My husband is 100% supportive of everything.
I love that.
He never wanted to own his own business. He said, that's not for me. This is you. This is your passion. You know how to do it. I've ran businesses, I've done it. And I just said, okay, let's do this. And scared as crap. I don't want to curse, but scared as crap on it.
Yeah.
My kids were still needy. They weren't little, but they were teenagers and they still required a lot of financial assistance. So I just said, let's do this. Open it up. In the first 6 months, I had made 6 figures, so I knew I could do it. I did it I did it also a way.
Right.
Well, and mind you, I did it also a way. So in insurance, you can take advances.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's how you get some good cash flow going. But the problem is if someone cancels their policy, it gets pulled back. And I didn't want that. I was like, I'm not owing people back money. I didn't want to do it. So I'm doing as earned. So that's very challenging when you're starting. So I was like, okay, all right, let's do this again. So, someone gets a deal here, I'm getting, 1/12 of it, right? Every
Right.
month. And so I'm trying to sacrifice, trying to find ways. I did so much, but customer service, lo and behold, I really feel that's where last year led to. I just do the right thing. All those people along my life, personal and professionally, have taught me all these lessons. I really feel that has come to my business. And I write policies, no joke, for free. There's a state that no matter what you do, you can't, for 2 companies, you cannot get appointed to. And lo and behold, this couple moved there and my assistant even said, you're not writing that. You won't get paid for it. And I said, no, it's the right thing to do. I'm going to do it
Wow.
because it's what they need. It's the best plan for them. Out of 70 carriers, this was the best thing for them. I need to do this for them. She's like, it's good. I'm like, I understand the complicated. I understand what's going to happen. I'm working for free. And she's like, I said, but don't worry. In the end, if you do the right thing, it will come back.
100%.
Gentleman told me that once. And he said, as a business owner, if you only think about $1 when you're doing business, it will never, ever work out in your advantage. So that's what I did. I was like, you know what? It's what's best for him. And that gentleman has referred 3 people, which have turned into bigger groups. I told my assistant, that's what you do. You just do the right thing. You'll be a great business owner and you go from there. And so I think that's where 2023, having a great, successful year, that all led to it.
Yeah. And I think that story speaks 2 things. One, your character, right? And who you are as a person. And number 2 is what a great mindset to value the long term instead of the immediate. Because so many people are like, I'm not going to get a paycheck. I'm looking at this for the here and now, right? Versus the long term and what maybe I sacrifice, and I don't know what your revenue model is. Maybe I sacrifice a couple $1,000s, but over 5 years, maybe I make $20,000 based on referrals, repeat business, things of that sort. And that's the mindset that you have to have going into business of like, I'm here for the long-term game. Right. So that's fantastic.
I meet a lot of clients and that's what my assistant laughs. So a lot of the brokers, they like, I want money tomorrow. I want it tomorrow. Next month, I know that I'm gonna get that paycheck. And I'm like, I just met with a couple who are looking next year to retire. And they're just like, I know this is kind of early. And I was like, no, it's okay. I was like, I'll talk to you now because you got to prepare for these things. These are things I want you to financially be prepared for. And the guy was just like, you're amazing. He's like, you took this time not knowing if you're ever going to get anything from him. It's like, no, I'm here to also help educate. But again, then I find that, people a year later, like, hey, I talked to you last year. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And the weird thing is it just comes right at that time when I'm trying to make like a decision in the business side.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, do I do this? Well, we all know in business, if I do this, I got to find this to, to pay for this.
100%.
Not that I'm struggling on that side, but it's just the idea. Like, if I'm taking this on, do I want, like, I'm opening a second office again? Do I want to bring that on? And lo and behold, there's just so many things that it's just proven time and time again that if you just do the right thing, and I know people hear me say it all the time, in personal life, professional life, if you do the right thing, you will be rewarded.
Yeah. You'll reap
on
the
so
reward.
many levels.
Yeah.
God's timing is impeccable. It just comes all at the right time.
100%. And then also from a business perspective of the more touches that you get, right, the more that you continuously feed the pipeline. That's one thing that I learned at Northwestern Mutual was when I'm setting out trying to build a business and I start as an intern, people that I'm talking to as an intern, in the first week are like, I'm not in a position here now to do something. But then, lo and behold, I get a text, I get a phone call, a year and a half later because of a touch I made, however long ago.
Yeah.
Right. And so the more touches that you can have, the more that's just going to snowball and compound, of people reaching out and feeding your business constantly.
And less touches, more about educating and advising, even though it's a year from now. Like that, those people, just because of that one instance, are just.
And let me tell you what you do, and we were talking about this a little bit, right? It's awesome because both Spencer and myself have had the ability to sit down with you and hear how knowledgeable you are. No, seriously. And what's awesome is, and I tell you this all the time, you have so much value because there's so, like, I don't consider myself a stupid person. Like, I think that I'm somewhat intelligent. I had no clue, right, on the health insurance space, all that kind of stuff. And being able to sit down with you and you taking the time to sit with Tawny and I and flip your screen around and go thing by thing and say, hey, this is how this works. This is how this works. This is how this works.
Yeah.
I'm presenting this to you. I'm giving you the options to make an educated decision. Like, that is so valuable.
I feel with people, here's my thing. Again, I worked in dental industry. It's literally the most second fear. People would rather be bitten by a snake and die. Statistically, they've shown that than go to the dentist.
Not me. Snakes are my number one fear.
But they and I'm always laughing. So when someone would talk to me about it, and I would be presenting, and I would always, be the person talking about their plans.
Yeah.
And you don't sell people. It's not about selling. It's just educating them. So with health insurance, I was like, it's just educating you. First of all, health insurance is health insurance. There's never a good positive stigma about it, right?
Yeah.
So I tell people, I am just here to tell you the pros and cons, and I want you to make the best decision for yourself. I can line up 10 people and they each will need different things, different stages of your life, different, chronic conditions, medications, all of those things come into play. And so if someone calls and says, yeah, I got insurance in 15 minutes, I'm like, okay, have fun.
Yeah.
Because they didn't talk to you. They didn't take the time. They didn't educate you. There are so many things that people do not know anything about health insurance that they didn't even know was a possibility. And I'm like, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to educate you. I could care less if you ever get a policy from me. But the idea is if you walked away, and I ask this clients all the time, I don't know if I ask you guys, when you walked in, do you know more than when you left today? Especially my Medicare clients. That's
100%.
a big thing.
Absolutely.
If you know more today than I did what I was supposed to do, I joke around, it's like it's my job, but that's what I want, because then you accept your policy better, you know how to utilize it better, and you just have a better experience with health insurance. The health industry is completely upside down today from one end to the other because there's so many different views, so many different things that occur and happen that I tell people, we joke around, health insurance sucks. I just try to make it suck a little bit less.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, honestly, it does. It's the one thing that nobody shops for. We shop for everything in our lives, everything, but health insurance. Health insurance is the one thing you walk in and be like, okay, well, I guess I'll pay that bill later. Like, I don't know what I'm walking in. And if the car agent literally says, well, what do you want? And you're like, well, give me whatever you got, because I don't have a choice. Because when you go to the ER, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
He's not going to bring you the Pinto. He's going to bring you a Rolls Royce because he knows you have to pay the bill at the end of the day. So why not be educated to make sure before you have an incident, before something happens? Or I had a broker who literally, I was like, I think I told you Zach this morning. I had somebody who said, my daughter just got her leg stuck in a bike wheel. Well, this weekend, what do I do? And she texted me and I said, okay, this is what you're going to do. This is what we're going to do. And she was just like, oh, I'm so thankful you were there. She's like, I'm in the ER worrying about my daughter, but yet the first thing I'm thinking about, what financially am I going to suffer over here?
Yeah.
And I was like,
Mhm.
you're going to do this, and she was happy. Of course, she was happy to also find out she only had a $250 deductible because then everything else would be taken care of.
Yeah.
So she was like, again, you put me in the right place. And as a business owner, the number one reason why business owners have bankruptcy is medical bankruptcy.
Really?
Mhm. And so
Interesting.
because they don't prepare, they don't feel they can get health insurance, especially starting out. They're like, I can't afford health insurance. That's the one thing I'm going to knock off.
I was
oh,
shocked by the amount of what Steph and I got for the quality.
for
I was like,
that,
I'm going to
but-
pay
but-
$2,000 a month.
But also,
Yeah, well, that's
Nowhere near
and
that.
business owners coming out, they're like, I can't afford 2,000. So guess what? I'm going to cut. Either I put marketing in to build my business, or I'm cutting my health insurance.
Yep.
yes,
I'm cutting health insurance because
Yes.
I'm perfectly healthy. I have nothing wrong with
Yep.
me. Well, accidents are accidents. They're not planned events. So nobody wants to prepare the guy who's pulling out in front of you and hits you. Your car insurance is going to look for your medical insurance first.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, your car insurance, like, what if you were at fault? All of this comes into play, and they're like, oh, okay, well, sorry. Or I had a client walking her dog. She tripped over the dog's leash. She fell. She broke both her arms simultaneously on a curb. She had just hit it right. She's flat down, and she is a mortgage lender, not a lender,
Yeah.
but
loan originator.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact terminology, but like she said, I couldn't work.
Oh, because you couldn't tie it. You could,
both her hands were completely disabled, and she was casted. And I had set her up something, and she was just like, oh my gosh, and the funny thing is people call me at their worst moments and I'm like, okay, this is what you did, or this is what happened. And I can go story after story after story. I had a guy who canceled his accident insurance. He was like, I don't need this. I'm going to save money.
Oh, the
Mhm.
next day.
Oh, he went to help a friend out of a pool, twisted wrong on his back.
Mhm.
Guy needed back surgery right away.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, Stephanie, I'm so sorry. I canceled that. I need it back in place. Like, it's not going to help you now because you canceled it. And I said,
Right.
and that's what business owners do. Because I made the stupidest mistake. I didn't listen to you. Because I told him, I said, listen, you work in mechanics. You need an accident policy. This is what my job is, to evaluate your lifestyle. And he was like, oh, I didn't do it now. But I got him something else that helped him. But he knew if he had kept that policy, he would have owed pretty much nothing. And he was just like, and
just
he
kicking yourself
He
in the
literally,
nuts.
for a whole month. And so, I mean, he never referred anybody. And the minute that happened, he referred two people over. He's like, this girl's going to take care of you. This girl's going to take care of you. She's going to take care of you.
Well, I'm loyal to the people. Like, my network is made up of people who educate me.
Mhm.
And like, if you're educating me and helping me get better, I'm loyal to you through and through.
And you're honest. That's
yeah.
my thing is I'll tell people, like, I mean, people, I think I told you, Spencer, I'm like, well, do you need vision? You're like, well, no. And I'm like, well, then don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You told
could,
us that too.
I could sit there and tell you all day
Yeah.
long, you
Yeah.
should really get this. No,
Right.
you don't need it. Or, whatever you don't need, don't do it.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
spend the money on it. Well, I want you as a business owner to succeed. Even though it's little money, but that little money can help pay for that one little tiny Amazon package, like the plant over there that you may want to pay.
Yeah.
That's one less
Right.
thing you have to buy. And so I'm thinking of business owners all the time. That's all I'm ever thinking about.
And that's what I admire from my sit down is just how much time you take to educate.
Yeah.
I feel like so many people rush through things, right? Because especially you're busy. Like, obviously, you're the number one female broker in the country, right? Obviously, you're doing something. You're busy. But no, you take whatever amount of time that's necessary to make sure that we understand what's going on. And that kind of goes into what we talked about some this morning, but also what we've talked about previously in the podcast of sales and consumers buying products and services is becoming more and more relational, right? Studies are showing that. And what are you doing? You are creating that relationship aspect to what people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what you're doing. And you're seeing the consequences positively for doing those things.
People go get jobs. They come to me or they lose their job. They get insurance. I had two brothers lost their jobs up in Illinois. One guy lost it, and it was the same company that I worked for, unfortunately. And the first guy lost it. He got his insurance with me, and then his brother lost it. And he's like, oh, you got to call this girl. She'll take care of you. I'm always called the girl. I don't know. I love it because I'm not a girl. And he turns around, and so then they literally like, oh, we found jobs. We're so sorry. I'm like, why are you sorry? Because we have to cancel the policy. Like, no, this is what I want you to do. You need to go get a job and you get your insurance through. I mean,
Yeah.
and people look at me and they're just like, we're so sorry, we're canceling. I'm like, no, just if you need anything else in the future, this is what I'm here for. And I remember him saying, he said to me, he said, this makes you an amazing person to know. He said, because you didn't take it personal that I was canceling something on you. And I'm like, no, this is what the next, you're going to get a job. This is what you need to do to financially support your family. Why would I be upset? And he goes, that just right there, he said that statement was enough for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and his parents never coming to me. So it's like that. But again, that you put it out there, you do the right thing. I don't think of the dollar. I never think of that dollar. You know, what if I talk to this person, this is how much I'm going to get from them.
Yeah.
I never think of it that way. And that's the worst way to do sales.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, things will happen where if I do this deal, I can do this, but I'm not looking ever at a person. I am amazed how many business owners look at people as dollar signs. They are relationships, and those are the people that build your
Yeah.
business. And if you think of them that way, it's just so much more powerful with what you're doing at the end of the day. So
And
It is. Yeah.
in the way that you interact with people, they can pick up on that. They can pick up on if you actually are thinking about them as a human being, or if you're thinking about them as a dollar sign.
Mhm.
They can sense that.
Yeah.
Like whether it's conscious or subconscious, people can pick up on those things if you're a genuine person and genuinely care about their best interests. So, you know, by you doing those things, people, I mean, I can't speak for other people. I can speak for myself. I sure as hell, I mean, heck, sorry. Sure as heck thought that leaving the meeting with you, I was like, Stephanie genuinely cares about Tawny and I and making sure that we're taken care of.
Yeah.
You guys don't have to be the experts in insurance. That's what I tell people all the time. 26-year-olds coming off their parents' insurance, you know, but 26, I find people at 46, at 56, at 66, they still don't know about health insurance because they either been with an employer forever and they're coming on their own. They're retiring, you know, like I want to retire at 60. I'm not ready for Medicare. People going into Medicare, they're like, I've been with an employer my whole life. I've never had to make these decisions. I don't know anything about it. I hand my card, I pay the bill, I move on. You know, people coming off 26 years old, you know, they come off their parents. It doesn't matter. I still say educating you is still the best way to do anything and any decisions. And it's funny because people all the time say, I remember what you told me. I remember what you told me. I remember what you told me.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, because I don't want you to be the health insurance expert. I just want you to know that I'm putting you in for something. This is why we're doing what we're doing. So you feel better about it. But I want you to be a successful real estate agent, be a successful marketing company. That's what I want you guys to be and focus on that.
Keep the main thing, thing,
And
right?
that's the thing. I tell people, let me be the insurance person. Let me be the one to call you and say, hey, by the way, your state changed the rules. We got to change some things around, you know, in that kind of situation. I mean, and unfortunately, health insurance is ever evolving. It's every 3 months.
Oh yeah.
It's constantly changing.
Well, let's do that. Let's talk about the educational aspect of things because one thing that I didn't know was that even though you're with an employer, like Steph was working with somebody, we could have opted out of that and still gotten coverage, and it would have been cheaper.
Yep.
So it's not just for the entrepreneurs, right? Kind of go off about that.
So when you have an employer plan, what happens is you feel your employer is giving you. So you have to imagine a group policy. They're traditional group policies. If it's 50 employees or more, they're mandated to pay 50%. Okay. So, but the problem is 80% of people only use 20% of benefits. And it's nothing against the reverse mindset of 20% of those people use 80%. The insurance company is looking at it as everybody's sick. Everybody's going to need a $100,000 bill tomorrow. And this is why those premiums are so high. So if you are 26 years old, perfectly healthy, you go to an employer plan, well, they probably have different age variances. So if someone's who's 60 years old, unfortunately, they've had some serious health conditions. The employer is being, you know, they have to pay premium. So let's say that 26-year-old's premium, well, heck, premium could be $600 for them. So the employer's paying $600, the employee's paying $600. Well, that 26-year-old doesn't need health insurance with the employer. They can opt out. They can't, like in the middle of the year, they can do it during enrollment season.
Yeah.
They can opt out and they can say, I'm just going to go find my own health insurance. Well, people are afraid to because they're like, wait a minute, but I'm losing what my employer's paying. But it's still costing you $600. Whereas if you and your wife, it was $500 for two people, you experienced that. And so my thing is, I can get a 26-year-old for $200-$300 a month and give them exactly what they need. Because one, the 26-year-old male is not going to get pregnant. He can't. Second of all, they're too young for mammograms or too young for colonoscopies preventatively. So they're not going to be covered anyways. So that's the important of knowing what my insurance policy is, how much I'm paying for it. And then if there's other alternatives,
Yeah.
and that's what I tell them, come ask me, just say, and I'll be like, no, unfortunately, you need to stay where you're at. That's probably the best bet. And, or no, you can definitely 100% go off the employer plan. Yeah, you're losing their benefit, but you don't care because it's still saving you money.
It's still saving money.
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
thing.
And the plan could be better. That's what a lot of people don't, because employers are increasing deductibles and max out of pockets. I mean, I had someone come to me, they had a $26,000 employer max out of pocket plan because they had to keep the premium so low. You have to imagine that employer is trying to stay in business. Health insurance is a very large cost to them. So, I mean, we're talking, it can be millions of dollars in health insurance they're paying out. So they're trying to keep that cost as low as possible to stay in business. And the employee thinks, well, they're just raised my rates. Well, you have to understand they're not doing it to be mean. They're doing it to stay in business.
A business decision. Yeah.
I've had large group come to me and say, if we do not change because Anthem, unfortunately raised their premium 67%.
67%.
That's not the highest. I've had someone who raised 82% this year.
Gosh, holy smokes.
So 67%. He's like, I'm paying more in their health insurance than I am actually paying their payroll.
Business owners, do you know the value of creating a strong brand and realize social media is one of the best ways to do it, but don't have the time to stay consistent or know where to start? Do you need a modern website or an eye-catching logo? You only get one first impression and you've got to make it count. No matter if you're looking for a website, a logo package, or if you need a professional to craft and implement a custom social media strategy to create a recognizable brand and drive sales, the Z&T agency has got you covered. Odds are you've probably been thinking about these things to some degree, but didn't know a solution. Or maybe this is all new to you and you're interested in hearing more. Either way, we'd love to talk to you. Reach out to zach.hire@theztagency.com to book your consultation call today.
He's like, I'm going to go under. I'm physically going to lose my family company. I need to make a change now. And so we put him into something else, and it was close to about $400,000 a year I saved him. Because again, he didn't know. He thought he had to stay where he was. He thought he just had to take it and move on. I'll pay and I'll find a way. And he's like, there was no way for me physically to pay. There was physically no way this was going to happen. And all of those people would lose jobs. Well, the employees were like, well, and I honestly told him, I said, listen, you have to understand the employer has their side. They're trying to maintain an ever increasing inflation cost, everything that's occurring with them. And just changing is what you got to do sometimes.
And just to put it in perspective, just for the listeners, as a little bit of encouragement for what Stephanie just said, me and my wife, Steph, just got a policy through Steph. And because she just left her job. We were on her insurance. And I think we were paying about $700 a month for family insurance through her employer. We now pay like $336 a month with you. And it's just as good, if not better coverage.
Yeah.
And so we are paying half, so I don't know if you are younger and you're at an employer and they're covering some costs, maybe call Stephanie, shameless plug here, like we always do. Call Stephanie and just inquire. She's going to educate you.
100%. And let me also put this out here. We're in Ohio, right? But Stephanie has clients all over the country. So it doesn't matter where you're at, correct?
Yeah, I'm 33 states now.
33 states. Okay. So if you fall, and you're lucky enough to fall into one of those 33 states, you can give her a call. So you don't have to just be local in Dayton, Ohio, Springboro, Ohio. It can be in one of those 33 states. Yeah, that's
I was actually national. So the funny thing is most people start business, they start local and then they go national.
Yeah.
I was reversed. I came in and I was like, I want national first. I didn't even have an office locally.
Yeah.
And so I worked out of my house, which didn't work well for me because I need to go to work physically.
Yes.
I mean, that's just I need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So no, I came in, I bought 8 states right away from my license. And I was like, listen, it was a huge investment on that part. I was like, I need 8 states right out the bat. I want to go nationally. And so I built up a really strong clientele nationally. Then I had people who are like, hey, can we meet? And I'm like, oh, I don't want to meet at their house. I don't like meeting at restaurants. All right, open an office up. So then I became locally. And now the problem is I focus so locally, I'm trying to get back to national again.
Yeah.
But my referrals are all still coming in from all different areas because in insurance, every state is different.
Yeah.
So Illinois, North Carolina, all the different states are different. That's why some states I choose not to work in, because their health industry just isn't, it's state mandated. Everything has a state mandate to it. So that's the biggest part of it is knowing where your limitations are. Like I get clients from New York and I'm like, no, unfortunately, I can help Medicare. I just can't help you under 65
Yeah.
because the state just doesn't allow a lot of flexibility on that
makes
side.
sense. This is something that I want to get into and kind of transitioning a little bit, how you talked about when, you were starting off and, you were like, I want to start off nationally and all this kind of stuff. I've gotten the privilege to get to know Stephanie through our Tuesday morning networking groups. And I will say that I've developed a lot of respect for you, not as a woman, as a business person in general. Like I hear the insights that you give when people are giving presentations and asking questions about, hey, what do I need to do in this business? And you are always offering very good insight. So I kind of want to transition into from the health insurance side to just general business, building a business, your experiences, your thoughts on how to go about that. So I guess let's start from the beginning and get into some of the detail on, when you were like, hey, you know what? I know that I want to be in business for myself. I'm opening my own business. I'm going to be self-employed. You decided to go nationally. Like, walk me through some of the details of what went into that in terms of like, why do I want to be nationally versus state? And then starting from zero, did you market? Like, how did you start getting clients? Walk me through that foundation piece, like starting.
So in health insurance, because if you're a small business owner, you probably get 20 calls a day. Do you have your health insurance? Do you have your health insurance? I was horrible at scripts.
I get like 3 texts a day.
Yeah. I'm just like, I've always believed when I marketed, I always thought of myself. What do I want? How would I respond? What would I want to hear? How would I get, catch somebody's eye, especially over the phone. So in health insurance, you buy leads, and that's how you get started. Well, I was lucky enough that a lead vendor came out with Facebook ads at that time. It was a brand new business. He had just started out. He had been in what we call final expense life insurance side. And he's like, I'm venturing over to the health side. I got lucky enough. It just exploded where people fill out a form. And it wasn't just like, I need insurance, click. It was a 3-page depth form. So you had to really be interested in getting health insurance. So because it was a national level Facebook advertisement, that's how I was like, okay, so you buy leads, and the great thing, he didn't do a great job of like, it cost him more to run it than it did to actually get it because he would open up time slots and he would be like, okay, for this hour, you're paying for an hour of it. And so you're getting all the leads that are coming in for that hour. So, and I was like, oh, that's a winner for me. I mean, because leads can be very expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, that's a winner. I mean, so we were like the tester trial people. I build so much first sales on that. Then I swore when I get a client, I am going to take care of them wholeheartedly, everything possible. Like thank you notes will always be handwritten. Like I want my 2 business cards because I thought business card for my client, a business card for referral. I meticulously thought about it. I used to, I wish I still could, but it just became too much. I used to send out welcome packets. Like the folder had like, here's your ID card, here's everything, if you need anything, here's some helpful hints. Because in the beginning, I was like, if I really love these clients, they'll refer me back. It worked 100%, like clients refer. And I wish I could still do that, but I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, even the staffing, they're like, there's no way we're keeping up with this. When you get to a certain level, you just can't maintain that. But even still today, I still thank you notes, I still do everything that goes out. But so when I started, that was my biggest thing. I was like, I want to treat clients how I want to be treated. What will make me stand out? What will make if someone, at the end of phone calls, I tell people, because if they don't know me, I'm like, hey, in your phone, I need you to be fair. Save my phone number. I did not want an 800 number. I didn't want a cubicle because a lot of health insurance brokers, that's what they are. They're an agent. So an agent works for the insurance company. A broker, we can offer anything we want. We're independent. So Anthem can't tell me what I have to sell. United Healthcare can't tell me what to do. I can then have completely a non-biased. They're having a rough year. I'm not going to put you in the policy. So with that being said, I was like, okay, that was my first step coming into it. I wanted to be independent. I didn't want someone to tell me how I was going to run my business.
Mm-hmm.
Then I knew I'd take care of the clients. I mean, because you put out what you'll get back, right?
Yep. Yep.
I knew that I didn't want to spend 15 minutes getting somebody signed up. I knew I wanted to explain step by step. Some people are like, okay. And I'm like, okay, but I need you to understand, okay, and sometimes I maybe talk a little bit too much with them, but it's getting to know them. And then honestly, the biggest thing was trust. Trust.
Yeah.
So I have brokers underneath me, and I try to teach them this. I try trust. You can't just get on the phone and say, hey, do you want some health insurance? Oh, let me get your name, your number, your date of birth, and your social
Yeah.
security.
Right.
Nobody's going to give it to you.
No.
I want to talk to people. first of all, that tells me stories, background. Like, what do you do? So, I mean, some of these people on appointments, they come in. I just had one on Friday. And he was just like, okay, what do you have to offer? I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Slow down.
Yeah. So I was like, listen, Mr. So-and-so, I was like, let's talk a little bit. And he goes, talk a little bit. And I said, let's talk a little bit. What do you do? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you do? Like, do you have children? Where are you located? And he goes, why does this all matter? Because if you're a suburban area versus a rural area, it makes a difference. Or if you're a city, it makes a difference. I need to know hospitals around you. I need to know what your extracurricular activities are. I need to know, what do you do for a job? Are you sitting at a desk? Are you out in the field? Are you using high tools? What are you doing? How many employees do you have? Do you have any? Do you want to grow?
Yeah.
And he's like, whoa, I didn't think this was an interrogation. I said, it's not. He said, this is the best way I can help you. So, and begrudgingly, he was like, okay, let me talk to you. And so he started talking. And at the end of it, he goes, this is definitely not how I thought this was going to go. And I said, well, was it good or bad? And he said, no, this was great. And he said, I have talked to so many people before about health insurance because he's like, honestly, I'll flip in a heartbeat. He said, but you're the first one. And this gentleman is 62 years old and he's owned a hotel chain. And he's like, you're the first person who has ever stopped me from just jumping into my health insurance. He said, you listened to what I wanted. You listened to this. And he said, you're the first one. And I was like, and even that was just it was Friday. And he's like, well, can I talk to you tomorrow? And I'm like, no, I don't work Saturdays. And he goes, well, can I talk to you Sunday? I'm like, well, if I'm not working Saturday, I'm not working Sunday.
Yeah.
And so Monday morning, he's like, okay. And I said, let me just send everything over to you. Take a look at it. He goes, I want to sign up. I'm like, let me send it over to you. Let me take a look at it. And so I'm not kidding you. Monday morning, it was 7:30 in the morning. Yesterday morning, 7:30. I'm like, who is calling me? It's health insurance. People, there's no, unless you have an emergency. It was him. He's like, I want to talk to you today. I need to talk to you today. And I'm like, I can't do anything for you till the first of the month. Just calm down. And he's just,
Yeah.
I mean, it was all day. He's like, no, he said, I found a golden nugget and I'm going to keep it.
Isn't it so crazy how like you're not salesy pushy and then the people just draw to you?
Oh, they just flock to you because they know like he said, you listen to me. You listen to what I wanted. And he's like, now we're going to talk about my hotel people. Okay. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't know we were talking about it. I said, this was just going to be for you. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm just not going to throw that out there in the beginning.
Yeah.
And again, that's what from the beginning to the end, I'm still the same way.
Yeah.
I still treat people at the very beginning. I was always like, I tried a script. That's the first thing they teach you. Do a script. I cannot. I am literally, so they get me all the time. Like I have to host a deep dive tomorrow. I have to do a host training of other brokers and everything. And I'm like, I'm the worst one, guys. And they're like, why? They say, you're great at what you do. I'm like, but I have no script. Like I am off the cuff. Like if you call and say, hey, Zach, how you doing today? And you're like, oh, I'm doing great. Okay, great. Do me a favor. What are you doing right now? And like, I will just like out of the blue. And I'm like, okay, so the reason why I'm calling is you're a small business owner. Yeah, I just want to call, make sure you have health insurance.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I have health insurance. Okay. So when's the last time you've actually talked to a broker? Because as a small business owner, you have the right to a licensed broker that's available to you. Do you know that? No, I didn't know that. Well, that's why I called. I called today for that reason. And they're like, oh, okay. I mean, it just,
Right.
the look that you're giving me is literally, I can see the look. They're just like,
Oh,
I did not know that. I
Right.
mean, you're a small business owner. You should be rewarded. You should get customization. You should have the right to somebody to stop and listen to your needs. Because I want to save you money on 40% on average is what I'm going to save you on health insurance. Is that important to you? Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. So why are we going to pay for something we don't need? Okay. So do me a favor. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
and then
just,
it goes from there and then it just builds. So you've ultimately built your business on detail oriented
Trust,
processes and then
listening.
trust and relationships.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. And we always like to paint a picture of like entrepreneurship too. Is like, hey, there's struggles. There's struggles.
Oh yeah.
What have been some of your struggles? And not just in your business, but also kind of as if, have you experienced any like female struggles in
Oh,
business? If so, let's hear about them.
100%. So I always feel bad saying this because I am in a male dominant industry. Health insurance is predominantly male. It's been that way. It is shifting because females, we're finding in every industry, it's like that, right?
Yeah.
Females are becoming more and more in the management, business owning. But it's still, unfortunately, the stigma is still there that females still have to be the ones to take care of the house
Yes.
in a sense, right? I mean, it's changing 100%, but I still, as myself, and this is not something my husband says to do nothing, it's what I put on myself. So one of the biggest struggles, and I've asked, so one of the girls that she's an agency owner, and I said to her, I said, how do you do it? She's like, what do you mean? It's one of the very first things in the first year I asked her. I'm like, how do you do it? She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, how do you handle family life and handle being a mom? And because you feel guilt not volunteering,
Right.
you feel guilt not being
Yeah.
there to pick your kid up and smile. How do you, and then being a successful businesswoman? She's like, you don't. She's like, either you're good at one or you're good at the other. The only thing you can do is just try to be your best at both. And at the end of the day, tell yourself, I'm doing the best that I can. That's all I can offer you.
Yeah.
And I have had to say that to my children. It's been heartbreaking for me to say that. I mean, bless my little, we got a set of new kitchen knives. And I told my daughter, you're not cutting your strawberries up. I'm thinking of that because that's what moms were like, don't cut yourself, because I don't want. And she's like, okay, well, can you cut them in the morning? Sure. I forgot because I was answering in my emails. And I'm sitting here and looking at her and like, I'm truly sorry you didn't get your strawberries this morning. She goes, Mom, it's okay. She said, but can you do it tonight? And I'm like, yeah, I forgot again, because I had a late call. And so,
Mhm.
and she was just like, and next morning she's like, Mom, can you try to cut my strawberries before they go bad? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm so sorry. Like
Yeah.
it is an everyday struggle as a female owner because, and no offense to guys, we have to get up, we have to do our hair, we have to do our makeup.
100%.
We don't get to run out the door. And it's still, people look at you if you show up to a meeting with your hair not done, your makeup not done, you're not dressed right, and they look at you and they'll be like, oh, this girl's having a bad day. I mean, I've had my hair pulled back
Yeah.
and I've had clients say, oh, you're having a bad day. And I'm like, I'm actually having a great day. Oh,
Yeah.
usually your hair's down. Now it's pulled back. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it's things like
That's
that.
so weird because I don't think like that
I don't
at
know.
all.
Well, but I
I
mean,
don't know.
I deal with all ages of clients.
Of course.
Yeah,
too.
right.
And there's some that just have no filter.
Yes.
They
right.
have zero social
Exactly.
awareness.
And he didn't mean any harm
Of course
by
not.
it, but
Of course not.
that hit home to me. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. So like, I'll make sure, do I have in-persons? Well, I do Zoom every day. So I don't really have a choice. And I told my husband, I said, you're lucky you get to roll out of bed, go in the shower and roll out the door.
Yep.
I have an hour to get ready. I got to make sure everybody's got everything they need. Like, today I was late for networking because my
Yeah.
daughter forgot something.
Right.
We're still mom. At the end of the day, the kids still want to call mom.
True.
Right. And then nothing heartbreak for me was telling my kids, listen, I'm becoming a business owner. My schedule is hectic. I need my kids. I feel bad. They have to have my calendar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if mom's in a meeting, you can't call me. If mom's doing this, you can't do this. You got to call dad.
Yeah.
And the kids, they were used to two working parents. They've always been used to that. But during open enrollment, I am 14 hours a day.
Oh, I know.
Stacked. They can't even call me.
Yeah.
I got a text message. It'll be hours because I
Yeah.
don't read a lot of text messages.
Right.
And so, I mean, that honestly has been the part, if anybody asked me, the part I regret was that side of it.
Yeah.
Like I have kids in the heart of it. Like I can't imagine Steph having a baby and having the little ones and
Yeah.
being a business owner. But like I said, down, we were talking earlier, I think it's easier for a gentleman to own a business than it is the female.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
I mean, I know lots of brokers, they're the males and they have the females. And so they actually, in our industry, you build your clientele, then you also bring brokers on. Well, like a lot of the wives are the ones handling the recruiting side and the husband's doing the selling side, or vice versa. However they're doing, the women aren't usually doing the selling, this the men are. For me, I'm everything.
yeah.
On both sides of it. So I'm stacked, and they're always like, well, Stephanie, hey, is this, and this, and this. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best that I can. You have brokers who want to come underneath you. I can't take on any more brokers. I can't do this
Right.
anymore. I'm trying to build this up, and I own an obligation to these brokers to help train them to run businesses.
Right.
And so, that's been a struggle. And it's nothing nothing that the men have done. It's nothing against it. It's
No,
just,
it's just
like
the
I said,
reality.
yeah. It's just what I put
reality.
on myself and being,
Yeah.
And so I tell women, I'm like, because they always ask me, how do you do it? I'm like, honestly, at the end of the day, I still tell myself I'm doing the best that I can. We're great multitaskers.
Yeah.
You know, we've been blessed. Most females are great because we handle multiple things through
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
And I've been able, you know, to be able to do that. It just, I still have guilt when my kids want to do something or volunteer at the school. I'm like, no, I'll give you money, but I
Right.
don't have time to give you my time.
Well,
So
the reality of the situation is because, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but you know, when you're a top 3 overall broker in the country, when you're the number 1 female, you don't get to those high levels of being elite at what you do without a little bit of sacrifice.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That's to be great at something means in some aspect of life, there has to be sacrifice of another.
But then again, remember you put things out there, they come back. You know, my kids are just, my husband, he appreciates everything. I mean, it's when your kids say to you, you know, like, hey, my mom's a business owner. You know, my
Yeah.
daughter will bring her friends and go,
They're
this is
proud of
my
you.
mom's business.
Of course.
You know, my son, you know, I told him I was coming on a podcast. He goes, Mom, that's so cool. He goes, you've made it. And I'm like, I've made it. And he goes, yeah, you've made it. Somebody wants to hear from you. I mean, and he's 19 and he
Yeah.
wants to be a business owner. And he has told me, I've learned from you. He's like, you know, it's not a 20-hour job. It's when I'm at home, I'm thinking about work. When I'm at work, I'm thinking about home.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like,
That's
it's
how it
a
is.
constant tear. You wake up in the morning going, oh, I got to do that for that client. You know, we were at Universal Studios a couple, 2 months ago. I was on my daughter. I'd surprised her for a trip for her spring break. Completely excited. And something happened, an accident, a client. And I was like, give me a minute. Give me a minute. I got to text this client.
Yeah.
And she was just like, Mom, we're at Universal. It's not that important. I said, actually, it was. They got into a severe accident and they're at the ER. She goes, oh my gosh, Mom, no, you go help them. You know, my daughter sacrificed her moment. Of course,
Yeah.
she wasn't sacrificing huge, but
Right.
it was the idea
right.
she put someone else in front. And I said, this is what business owning does. You take care of your clients or take care. Without our clients taking care of us, we're not going to be at Universal Studios doing the fun things.
Yeah.
And she understands that. But
Right. And
the kids reward, I mean, kids notice, like your kids will appreciate one day watching you go through it. You think they are sacrificing, but they also feel the reward of like saying, hey, my parents own a business. Hey, my parents get to, you know,
In
do
the end, when
this.
they see the bigger picture, they're proud.
Yeah, they're very proud. And that makes you proud.
and that's
to
what
do
that's
doing.
exactly what I was
Yeah.
going to say.
Yeah.
Is it's got to be an awesome feeling when your 19-year-old son is looking at you and being like, "Oh, Mom, you're so cool."
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like that's got to just like be like, you know, it's all worth it.
Yeah. He just, because then again, they don't say it to you necessarily, but when you
Yeah.
hear them say something to their friends,
It's even better.
oh, you're just
inspiring.
like,
Better.
you're like, okay, thanks.
It's even better.
You know me
Yeah.
now. and
You're
I'm,
of course.
deflecting again.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm like,
deflecting.
hey, you know, all right, thanks. You
right.
know, I'm like, hey, but I mean, and I have some really big clients. I have clients on TV. I have clients who have Netflix show. I have one who's got an A&E show. And I was watching the show because I want to know my clients, right? So I was watching sounds like, why are you watching the show? And I'm like, well, because that's a client I just picked. He goes, oh my gosh, you picked up someone who's got an A&E show. I'm like, yeah. I want to find out who they are because first of all, I want to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, I have another client, I think I told you, you know, he hosts a podcast. He's a huge real estate guy. He has a podcast and he's smoking a cigar. And I'm like, no, you can't smoke a cigar. You're not supposed to be a tobacco user. You know what I mean? I'm like stop it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you
and
just
that's
can't
shut it off,
I know,
can you?
No. And so it's like my kids are like, that's just cool.
Yeah,
Would you say that's the coolest part about your job is just like the people that you get to
Ah.
interact with?
I have talked to so many amazing people. Like I have a Medicare woman. She knew Albert Einstein.
No way.
That's serious.
Are you serious?
She went to college with him because you imagine Einstein was around the 50s, right?
Yeah.
So she
Wow.
went to college
that
with him.
timeline thing.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
That's
And she
awesome.
was like telling me, and she's like, yeah, I actually danced with him. I said, what? She said he was very introvert because he was a mathematician. I mean, hello.
Of
Yeah.
course.
And they made him as one of the college dances he went to because back then in the 50s, they went to dances, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
And she said, he asked me to dance. And she said, he was weird. Like, well, come on, look at
That's
it.
She
so
wish she
funny.
would
What
have
do you
danced her
expect?
butt off.
Yeah,
now.
but then she was like, well, of course, we didn't know the history. I mean, we knew
Yeah.
he was great at what he did, but
Of
we didn't.
course.
And she was like, I get to say I danced with Albert Einstein. I was just like,
yeah.
that I will sit and listen to my clients all day because the stories,
You
again,
get
like
so
what
many
you guys get to do.
stories.
Yeah.
You get to hear us and our stories.
Right.
It's the same thing for me.
Of course.
I get to hear the life they've lived and what they do and how they became who they are.
Yeah.
So, especially because I do have a lot of small business owners. How did
Yeah.
you become a business owner?
Right.
You know?
I just love hearing stories.
I do too. Well,
And-
people relate to stories.
Yeah.
People love hearing stories, and everybody's got one.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That's the beautiful thing about stories is everybody has one that's unique to them.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they're all different.
We're a world of all these different people. I think we push through and we just prejudge. Like I was saying earlier about the guy who came in smelling like horse manure, literally,
Mm-hmm.
and flopped it down. And you know, I asked him, I was like, so what do you do? He's like, well, I actually have a horse stable, blah, blah, blah. I run some horses. Of course I knew his name, you know, because I was dealing when he came into town for a wedding. He left his tuxedo and he's like, I just need to get one made really fast. I'm like, well, I can't really make, you know, I can't hem it or anything. I was like, he's like, can you do something for me? I'm like, you know, and I knew where he was going. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're going to that wedding? Like, I know that wedding. And he said, yeah, he said, just remember, don't judge a book by its cover and always get to know who you've got.
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking to someone else and I said, yeah, this client, I had said his name. Of course, it wasn't medical related, so it wasn't a big deal. And they're like, oh my gosh, you know who that guy is? I'm like, no. He goes, he owns a horse who like runs in the derbies. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, like he is one of the top horse breeding, you know.
And he came in smelling like crap.
Wow.
And he's smelling because he had just came from the stable of horses that he happened to have a client anyways. And so I was just like, you know who that
That's
is?
a huge lesson right there.
It really humbled me. It really did make me feel like, you know, because at that age, I was like 23, you know, I'm like, oh, they've got to coming off the car, you know, showing the diamonds, you know. And I have learned that people who become successful in their life, they don't need to show off. They don't need to brag about the money they've made. They've reached a certain elite level. You don't need to do it. You just need, you know, and a lot of times they're more frugal because they've earned that money. You know, they'll spend the money. Because I mean, in the insurance world, there's a lot of money that goes around in there, a lot of insurance agencies, stuff like that. And so I've had the privilege of meeting many people, and you would be walking along the street, you'd have no idea this guy was made of money, you know. And I'm like, that just right there, those are the people I'm attracted to because they don't need to boast, to brag. Because obviously you can tell I'm not a big bragger about anything.
You're a humble lady. We'll say it for you.
For sure.
And then that's what I feel again. You just don't know people until you talk to them, you know their stories, you know everything. And it's just, I love people.
That's a great life lesson.
I kind of want to jump back just briefly, real quick, with this one question back into like the health insurance field. What would you say is like the number one or top two things that like people are shocked about when you sit them down and talk to them about health insurance?
Options.
Yeah.
They're just dumbfounded. They thought it was Marketplace, Christian Share, or your employer. They thought those were the three. That was it. And I'm like, oh, it was our whole world. I mean, Anthem has a private sector. United Healthcare has a private sector. Many companies who have been around for years have, I mean, there's so many options. And that's what they're dumbfounded by. They're also dumbfounded the fact that you can shop them or you can customize. You can cafeteria those plans out. You can pick and choose what you want. You can add on. People think you can have one plan and one plan only. You can have riders that cover this. My job is to find the financial exposure that could happen. And I want to fill those gaps in. It could be 2, 3, 4 plans. But at the end of the day, you're going to be happy when those all work together. I had someone who went through cancer. She had a lung resection. She just wanted the basic part. And I was like, no, I really want you to add the second part. And this is the reason why. She was still saving a lot of money. Her premiums went in half. So she was okay, fine, we'll do it. At the end of the day, she went through a lot of cancer, you know, unfortunately surgeries, everything else. And she actually ended up walking away with $14,000 in her pocket.
No way.
She was like,
fist bump.
Yeah, she was like,
Wow.
I got paid to have cancer. You know, she's perfectly fine now. And regrettably, we had to change some things around because her doctors went out and some things happened. But again, that cost for her, first of all, we saved her premiums. So I saved her, you know, $900 a month times 12. Plus I saved her max out of pocket. So she didn't owe that. And then she actually got $14,000 back to her.
Wow.
That's actually amazing.
And so I kept telling her, and this is the value of a broker too. So she called me and she's like, yeah. And I said, well, your primary insurance paid. She's like, yeah. She's like, I sat and I was, wait a minute, did your secondary insurance kick in? And she was like, what do you mean? I'm like, do we know if your secondary got billed? She's like, well, I have no idea. And I'm like, well, let's find out. She's like, well, I'm like, because that max out of pocket you just paid out, they can replace all of it. And plus, she was like, no, they're not. I'm like, no. And I'm like, just do me a favor. Send me all the bills you got. And that's what I do is I will send them over to the health insurance company. So I sent them over, and she was just getting check after check after check after check.
That's amazing.
And she was like, so I got all my money back and I walked away with 14,000.
So there's just so many options. That's
Right.
the one thing you would say like
Mhm.
people are astounded about is the options.
Options, and they don't have to be high priced options.
Yeah.
Customized to yourself. It's like the financial, I really say the financial industry, but for the health side. You pick and choose your stocks when they're popular and hot and stuff like that. As you
Mhm.
financially go on, you're conservative. Then, when you're young, you're aggressive, right? On your
Yeah.
stocks, right?
Yeah.
So as you go to older, we're a little more conservative. Well, when you're younger, you don't need all those additional coverage levels. You just don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Things don't never pertain to you. Why pay for them? People don't realize that's options. You can cafeteria, pull them out, extract what we don't need, and you can add them back in.
Mhm.
If there's just so many things we can do, and that's what people don't understand the value of a broker. An agent can't really do that for you. They'll just
Yeah.
offer you what the insurance company is going to tell you.
Mhm.
What happens when your doctor goes out of network? Are you supposed to change your doctor? Well, what if you're in the middle of, something going on? And that's when I've had people, that call and be like, hey, my doctor's office went out of network. What happens? Well, we're going to switch you. Well, what? No, we need to switch you then.
Yeah.
I don't want you to
Yeah.
adjust your care. I want your insurance to adjust to you not to adjust to your insurance.
That's what we were talking about with Chaz about the healthcare industry.
That's exactly what we were talking about.
He was upset about how highly inappropriate it is for like coverages to like interweave themselves into doctor client relationships and
getting in
where
between them.
wedging
Yeah.
themselves in between.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is the insurance. So the insurance is between you and the insurance company, right?
Yeah.
The doctor is involved on the network side, the contracting side. So if the doctor is getting, it happens. An insurance company will decide to third party things out, and then the claims are slower. Doctors get mad, or inflation, especially this year was a big change. Doctors want more money. Well, the
Mhm.
insurance companies don't want to give more money because they don't want to raise premiums. It's this vicious cycle, and you can only adjust to certain. We as outsiders can only adjust to it. We don't have
Right.
that control.
Yeah.
Doctors have the choice to go in and out at any time of the year, which people don't understand. A doctor's group can be like, you know what, we don't want to be in a network anymore. And what are you to do if that's your doctor? And all of a sudden now they don't take your insurance.
Right. Right.
Stuff you got to think about, especially as a business owner or not as a business owner, and you want to leave your employer's plan.
Exactly.
Uh,
Regardless, call Stephanie.
Yeah. So, and another big question that I had to Stephanie is if there's let's say no matter what her age is, a female listening wanting to be an entrepreneur, how as you a successful female entrepreneur, how would you encourage her? What are some things you would tell her to do to look out for to avoid all that stuff?
I would tell her again, if you have kids, be honest with your family. Sit down, this is what I'm going to do, especially if you're starting out. It's going to take a lot of my time. It's going to take a lot. This has to be a family decision. Okay. If you're by yourself, you know what it is, right? You're going to put the time, you're going to put the effort in. You're going to spend 22 out of the 24 hours a day building your business. As every business
Explain
owner
the
should be.
sacrifice.
Mhm.
And that was the thing. We sat down with my kids, and my husband first had the conversation. Then my kids came on, and I'm like, listen, mom's going to open a business up. And I know for you don't understand that, but this is what it's going to entail. I'm going to have a really busy season, and hopefully we're going to be busy all year, but you had, it's a family sacrifice. If everybody's not on board, then I'm not doing it. That was
Yeah.
me. That was my choice, my family. And my husband even said, this is something your mom's always wanted to do. We think she'll be great at it. We did this. And the kids were like, oh yeah, of course we support you. Of course they didn't understand,
Right.
but I still wanted them involved because it's a family decision, because there's going to be sacrifices made.
Yeah.
And so that would be my first thing. I would say evaluate your personal situation. If you're just with your husband, make sure your husband's on board, because that'd be the worst thing. That's like changing jobs and your husband doesn't even agree with where you're going to.
Mhm.
My husband is my best friend. He has to be on board 100%. I've been with him since high school. We've grown all these years. At the end of the day, something still happens. He's my first one. Like I even said, I texted him today. I said, I'm a little nervous going in front of a microphone today. And he's like, you'll be great. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I need his support.
For sure.
Is it always, at the end of the day, like we had dinner reservations and I'm late. And does he get frustrated? Yeah. Everybody would, right?
Yeah.
So as the female side, I say, know your ground too. Be strong in what you're doing. Know your audience. A lot of times females, we're a little bit more, we observe more on personalities. So I feel most females I've met were like, we prejudge, right? Statistically shown, we judge 95% of our time and 5% of the people. So females were great at judging ourselves. So we judge other people really quickly. So we can
Yeah.
read an audience. I've always felt women are very good to throw into a party. Not all of them. Some of them are introverts,
Yeah.
you know. But I'd say if you want to be a business owner, being an extrovert does help. You're not afraid to go. And we're always afraid in certain areas, like a microphone. I'm like, oh, here we go, microphone.
Yeah.
You know. But I felt, I wanted to I learned that from being in Delphi. I know what I know, and I'll admit when I don't know something, but I'm going to go in with the mentality of I'm not going to sit in the back of a room as a woman business owner. I'm proud to be a business owner first and foremost. Being the female part is the secondary part to it because I want to be recognized as a business owner. That's what I want to be recognized
Number one.
as.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Of
don't,
course.
if you didn't know that box, feeling male or female, and you just knew I own this business and you look at my numbers, I don't want you to go, oh, that must be a female. I want you to see me as a business owner. That was my first thing.
Yeah.
I'm coming in strong. And then the female side was just the bonus part of it, because I love to see female business owners in every level become successful. Even the hairstylists, they're like, oh, well, we're a female prominent. I'm like, but be strong at a business owner.
100%.
Own it. So,
and I tell you what, there's, and this is something that I've come to learn through marriage and being around more women is I've just developed such a respect for women and just seeing what all they juggle and how, like, there's just so many things. And I can use Tawny as an example, but there's just so many things that are my weaknesses that because she has the female characteristics, it's her strengths. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many things that she is so much better than me at, and women are so much better than
that's
me
your
at.
partnership, right? Your partner should always strengths and weaknesses.
100%. But I'm even talking in the business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From a business sense, like there's just so many characteristics that women possess that only women can possess. And I think that they're so important, not only to, a business and an economy, but also the family unit and a society. So, I mean, it's awesome being able to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I get women all the time who are like, were you hesitant coming into a business being a woman? And I'm like, no, because I knew, but I tell people, do not shy away because you have a family. If you're open and you're honest, and it is hard.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it is going to be more challenging because at the end of the day, that family I still today text, what are we doing for dinner? What are we doing for dinner?
Yeah.
And I'm like, go ask your dad. I don't know. I'm not there. I got a meeting till 9:00.
Right.
What are we doing for dinner? I'm in meetings. Go ask your dad. You know what I mean? I still get that, and
you're still the glue in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah. For the family.
And there's
unit.
always one, even male or female, there's always one person who tends to kind of the person that you're going to go to. Right.
Of course.
So it can be a single household. I've got clients who are a single male household and they call me and say, hey, what do I, and I'm like, what? I'm your insurance broker.
Yeah.
Right. And some of my young ones who are single men, bless their little hearts, they call me and say, hey, so my, like gentleman doesn't have a mom around, and he calls me and I'm like, I'm not your mom,
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but he's like, I respect you and I've gotten to know you. And not that they're my best friends, but it's just the fact he's like, I respect you, and what would you do? And I'm like, oh, well, then it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I feel kind of like honored. Like you're asking me, you live in a completely different state and you still want my opinion,
Yeah.
Well,
So,
for sure.
I think something about you that we could brag about is your confidence in what you do, but not only that is your confidence in that you'll figure it out.
oh,
Yeah.
Just like the Delphi,
sure.
like the negotiations and all that
Yeah.
stuff, the confidence that you'll figure it out. And that's what it takes, because there is a stigma about being a female in business.
Yeah.
And so you just have to be strong and confident.
And what is that? One of our favorite words. You've developed some real grit.
Oh.
Grit is our favorite word.
You know what I mean?
I've had, and it didn't
really
show up all
developed
night.
grit.
When I was in my 20s, there's no way I think I would have a business. I knew I wanted to, but I don't think I had enough grit in my life to get to where I'm at now.
Yeah.
I tell a lot of business owners there are personality exams out there. And I know that my partner, he does a lot with his first brokers coming in. I think you need to know what kind of person you are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Either you're an examiner or you're someone who's like, okay, I'll figure this out.
Yeah.
I am definitely the one who's like, I can do that for you. In
Yeah.
the back of my head, I'm like, how the heck am I going to do
Well,
this? I'll
right.
figure it
You'll
out.
figure
then.
it
Right.
out.
Right.
And, you know, and I know, Spencer, you've said that. You're
Yeah.
like, I'm better when you throw me in the water. I'm going to sink or I'm going to swim, and I'm
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
swim. I'm
Yeah.
not sinking.
Yeah.
Are you looking to buy, sell, or invest? Be sure to use a Maxwell Group at NavX Realty, where your dream is our passion. The Maxwell Group takes pride in client relationships and experiences. We utilize our knowledge, our love for the industry, and our extensive network to handle your life's biggest investment. Call or text Spencer Maxwell at 937-572-5382.
And I think it's a mentality when you own a business. Take it, own it, know you can do it.
Yeah.
There's that gut feeling. You knew I wanted to own a business. I knew I could do it. Because either at the end of the day, if you're totally honest with yourself, either I can own a business or I'm meant to work for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Own that. There's nothing wrong with either way. You don't have to be a business person to be successful. You can work for a company and build yourself up from there. There's nothing, but people are embarrassed to say that and to own that. And if you know it, you're going to be way better at owning a business or way better of an employee. But just own it. Know what you are.
Right.
Examine yourself. Be honest with yourself. You know, and know and we all have weaknesses as a business owner, especially.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that I have done. I'm like, okay, take deep breaths.
Mm-hmm.
You know that car commercial with the girl pulling in the Lexus? She's in front of a party and she's like looking at herself in the mirror. She's like, I know I can do this. I know I can do this.
Yes.
We've all had that.
Right.
We've all done
Right.
that. We've had to take deep breaths, know we
Right.
can do it. And I think that is what makes people different between owning a business and not, is because we're like, I know I can do this. I know I can do it. Something's telling me in my gut and I'm listening to it. And I knew I could, and had to be right timing, right placement, the right field.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, again, we just talked owning different businesses. I know I'm great at what I do. I want to add little, like I said, maybe flip a house or two just to have that long-term investment side of it.
Yeah.
It's not something I want to do full time, obviously, but
Of course.
I listen to what I'm supposed to be doing. Then I listen to all the people around me. I make my decisions, what's best for myself. Because in the day, I'm ultimately just the final decision maker.
Right.
And that's what just has to
It all
happen.
started with a lady putting her hand on your shoulder.
Oh, that
saying,
little, I
Yep.
can still see the image.
Yeah.
I still see, I see that image. I still see this is going to sound corny. I still see the first time when I saw my husband, when he was walking down the high school, and I look over and I'm like, who is that guy?
Who's that stud?
I could literally,
Who's that stud?
He was 2 years younger than me. And I'm like, oh, that's a sophomore. I can't, that's inappropriate. You know what I mean? Like, but there's a couple moments, and we all have those in our lives that we can visually see it. And she put her hand, and I still see it. And I remember going, oh,
it got you started.
yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, that kind of goes back to our conversation with Mark, right? Because Mark had a lot of the, like, not a lot of them, a few of them. And it just comes down to just like the power of one, right? All it takes is somebody believing in you.
Mm-hmm.
And then that, you know, triggers something in your brain that you believe in yourself, and you go out and you go do big things.
Because I mean, when that doctor who I worked for, he knew he was losing his practice manager.
Yeah.
Because when you
were
sell your
made for more.
well, and when he said you're made for more than this, and
Yeah.
I was just like,
I got chills when you said that. Like,
Yes.
he saw
Yes.
something in you
and
that
he
you
knew
didn't
he
even
was
know
losing.
yet.
Yeah, and he knew he was going to be losing me.
Yeah.
And I mean, and this, I even hired my replacement, and I trained my replacement.
Mm.
You know, he's like, because I trust you to find the next you, you know, and I need you to help me. Will you help me do that? And I said,
Yeah.
of course. We had been together, you know, for 15 years. You know, we had been through a lot of things personally, professionally, you know, and we developed as humans as you age. And for him to say that it meant a lot to me. And again, all these people, it's that life. Just listen to those. You don't see them at the moment they're happening.
Right. Hindsight 2020.
Yeah. When I'm looking back and I'm like, oh my gosh, that did have an impact. Oh, that
Right.
did have an impact.
Yeah.
Right.
So people who are younger starting out, you don't have that experience yet, but just listen to those just stop. Listen to the cue. May not mean anything.
Yeah.
But, and not that I'm old, I'm 48, but I've learned, and I've been managed since I was 17. So I know my employees. Like,
Yeah.
I don't put my thumb on my employees. I'm like, you're here to do a job. If you don't do your job, then unfortunately it's not going to work out. It's
For
not.
sure.
I don't fire you just because I want to, because you're not, you know, and I've not had a high turnover since I've owned business owner. It's just because one person moved away. You know, my admin's been with me. She puts up a lot. But I mean, and I, again, treating the employees, which helps me grow, because someone once said, I think you said it once, but couple of years ago, someone said to me, hire someone so you can start working on your biz or working in not
On
so,
your business.
On
yeah.
your business, not in
So
your
I
business.
hired an admin, and she was right. It relieved 40% of my duties,
Mhm.
which allowed me then to expand, which honestly, my assistant came in the beginning of last year,
Yeah.
which I truly believe she had a huge impact on the growth last year for me to reach those numbers, because she was able to handle 40% of the stuff I was doing.
Well, what's she doing? She's freeing you up to do what you do
Yeah,
best.
she 100, and she has, I mean, I absolutely got lucky finding a person who the first time out as an admin, you know, she is my assistant, and I don't even call her that. I always call them my team. We're my
Mhm.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are not my employee. You're my team. I value when I interview. I'm
That's
like,
what I say. You're never
yeah,
working for somebody. You're working with somebody.
I want
It's-
your input. If I'm doing something
Yeah.
wrong or you could be better,
Mhm.
tell me. We'll work together, because this business will only grow and elevate as if we all work together. I'm not here to tell you because I said so.
And that's the humility that you have to possess
Yeah.
to grow.
Oh yeah.
Right? You're not going to grow the way that you did
Mhm.
if you don't have that mindset.
And I don't know how many employees you have. I think you should always have that mindset,
100%.
because as I'm getting older, people are younger coming in. I'm learning from them,
Yeah.
like technology,
Yeah.
like social media.
Social media.
Right.
We just
I
talked about it.
never would have thought insurance, sales would be 67% of people are on social media looking for selling. And I'm like, what? Like
Mhm.
YouTube. Someone said that people go to YouTube now before they go to Google.
Oh,
When did
Which
that
is weird because
happen?
I'm
Yeah.
such a Google.
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
blank
Oh,
near
I
me.
know.
well,
Right.
that I don't think that you were there, but when I gave my marketing presentation, all the statistics, it is staggering
Oh,
how much social
what?
media is advancing.
Which
And-
baffles me, and I'm 26.
And for me, like for example, 74% of people before they purchase a product or service will look on social media.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, 74%. That seems outrageous. But then I looked at it and I'm like,
It makes sense.
well, and I use this example all the time, but over Christmas, Tawny and I got invited out to dinner with a couple friends, and it was a restaurant downtown, Sueño, and I had never been there. I had no clue what it was, what type of food, anything. What was my immediate reaction? What was Tawny's immediate reaction? First thing that we did, we didn't Google, we didn't do anything. We went to their Instagram page.
Which is weird. I'm going to the freaking. I go to Google.
I know.
I'm just an old.
We went to their
I'm
Instagram page.
transitioning. I'm
Yeah.
moving along in the trends, but
Right. And it's just amazing how much that's taking off. But,
Yeah.
obviously I might be a little biased. Since
well,
I
and
opened
just look,
marketing.
that's why you want to use the Z and T agency, because they're
Yeah.
the ones who are going to help figure that stuff out.
I appreciate you.
Anytime. No, but I mean, and that goes back to the relationship though, right? Because
Yeah.
we talk about how everything's shifting relationship wise
Yeah.
and sales,
100%.
because people are so tired of getting the 100 calls, not knowing who they are, the trust, they want
Mhm.
trust in who they're, we're shifting back
Yeah.
to the old brick and mortar. Like we want to talk to people, right? We want to talk to the experts. We want to see those people.
For sure.
And I think that's why people don't understand social media, because you can see them. Like people can see, like I'm a mud girl. People like, I had people today, I posted, I went side by side, and I have an accident policy, thank goodness. But I went side by side this weekend. I love mudding. Love it. Like,
Really?
oh, I love it. Love it. I don't know if it's adrenaline. I don't know. But people are shocked. They were like, I didn't know you were a mud girl. And I'm like, yeah, but that's my personal side.
yeah.
And I had one of my clients say, this is awesome. My broker's a mud girl, and
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the idea, again, we get to know people. What's then we build trust. We know their behaviors. We know who they are in the backgrounds. We know what kind of person they are. And if I want to work with that person or if I don't,
Yeah.
then you're going to have a better experience on what you're offering your clients. Your clients are going to have a better experience with you.
Right.
And we build those I think we were going back to the old school.
We are.
Hey, my dad's insurance guy. You got to call him.
100%.
Yeah. Well,
Which
That's
we
where I'm
need.
at.
Well, at the end of the day, people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust, period.
We got away from that.
We
That
did.
used to be when I was growing up. You didn't go to someone, you didn't give a dime to someone unless you knew who they were.
For
And
sure.
We
then
got
it all
away
became
from it.
about sticker price.
And then I think we're going back to,
I think we are too.
I'll pay $50 more if I know, one, I know what I'm getting, but two, I know the person, because
Mhm.
they're going to put me in the right space.
Yeah.
Right.
And you trust them.
So,
Yeah.
100%.
Well, one of the last things that I want to talk about, and we don't have to, we can keep this as long or as short as you want, but I want to hear what your goals are moving forward.
Mhm.
Not just from the health insurance business, but whatever that may look like. I know that you had briefly mentioned some real estate stuff, things of that sort. What are your like long-term goals? What's next?
So long term, when my daughter graduates in 7 years, well, 6 years, I want to go on the road. And
Okay.
when I say that is I want to have an RV. My husband and I
Yeah.
want to travel around the country. So personally, and we want to live there for 2 years in an RV. Okay,
Oh,
that's
that's
our
really
dream.
cool.
But to be able to do that, I need to have a business that I can do now. I can remote work from anywhere.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I've opened up local offices. So for business wise, I'd like to see brokers there working underneath me. What I already have. I've already made that forward mission for this year to put one in my Centerville office, and I've got some Springboro. But then I have national brokers, so I can still support. So one is not to have to be. I want to still have local step up. I never want to own an agency. I don't want to be an agency, that's for sure. Because I feel an agency, you have to be present somewhere to have people, all those people underneath you. It's not my niche. I know what I don't want to do. And that's one
Yeah.
of them. So professionally, that's what I want. So my husband doesn't have to work. We can be the RV guy,
Yeah.
and I'm on the road. I have a lot of RVers, a lot of people who travel.
Yeah.
I have a lot of traveling nurses, anesthetists, and I have people who are in RVs all the time traveling. I'd love to meet up some of my clients. I've had people now like, oh, you should meet us, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. That's my professional side of it.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Do my kids want to do an insurance? No, they've already said probably not. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
get that. It's not everybody's niche, right?
Totally.
I do want to have some real estate, some flipping some properties just for investment side,
Of course.
because the S&P, as we all know, gets going here
Yeah.
and there. I don't want my money invested in something, diversification.
Yeah. 100%.
I want to diversify. I tell all business owners, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I learned that from my dad by his business. Diversify your investments. Man, I just want to have fun. That sounds terrible. But I was talking to someone yesterday.
It's
and I
so
was like,
true.
I am not where I want to work all the time. I work so I can live life.
Your goal is to build a
Yeah.
lifestyle.
100%.
Yeah, it's not
Your
even
professional goal is
yeah.
to build a lifestyle for
Yeah,
yourself.
I just want to experience everything. Like I love people.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest goal in life, really truly, is to just explore. Like there's a firefly thing that happens in Gatlinburg every year. I want to go down there and I want
Yeah.
to experience that. Like I want to experience everything internationally, nationally. I'm always like, I'm game for everything. You want me to go do limitations? I'm not jumping out of an airplane, but you want to go adventure down this thing. Okay, yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like that's why we were put on this earth.
Yeah.
100%.
So many beautiful things out there exist, and nothing wrong. People don't want to travel out, but that's me.
Yeah.
I want to go explore. I want to talk to people. I want to, at the end of the day, I did everything that I wanted to do. I owned a business, so I could do that. I didn't want to be strapped in a 9-to-5 job by someone else telling me, you only have 3 weeks of vacation. I want.
If I want to go to Italy for a month, I'm going to Italy
and
for
I
a
can
month.
still work.
And you can.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted. That was one of the parts
Yeah.
that was very attractive to me, was everything can be done remotely. And I know a
Totally.
lot of brokers, that's what we do. I mean, we like the fact that we can take it anywhere.
Yeah.
I like my business being open and local, because I have some people who like to talk to people locally.
Mhm.
So I like the fact that I still have that. And for right now, that's what I want to do. And I want to bring a broker in there, and I think COVID taught us all what will happen in 5 years. Who the heck knows?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm going to do the best that I can, keep
Right.
going. But
Right.
again, you stick to your you stick to what you originally opened the business for. It will just
Yeah.
naturally evolve and grow. So my numbers are there. Right now, I'm 29% ahead of where I was from last year.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Let's go, baby.
I mean,
Let's go.
and
She's
even-
about to be number one overall.
It's become challenging. So you said when you have a great year, what
Yeah.
do you do? You set bigger goals,
Yeah.
right?
You want to be better.
How do I keep doing this? I don't know. That's one of the, so May is my big, let's reevaluate how are we doing. I'm putting a lot of money in marketing. I put a lot of money in marketing last year. It didn't work out what I'd hoped for, but
Yeah.
it is what it is, marketing, right? So
Right.
this year I'm coming back to, our big thing was back to basics, go back to why you own
Yep.
a business.
And that's the thing, that the people think that the best and biggest and richest business owners do all these crazy complex things. They just do the basics better than everybody
Yeah.
else.
And then later that was so USA Benefits Group is an FMO. So they're an FMO. They're the ones who handle my contracting
Mhm.
because we have 70 carriers. And so they negotiate our contracts. So like we just got a bump in from Anthem. Like they go to us and say, hey, we do as much business for you collectively as an FMO. We deserve more money. I
Yeah.
can't ever do that. First of all, the Anthem's gonna be like, who's Stephanie? You know,
Right.
whatever. Yeah, I produce a lot, but see, I produce a lot for many carriers.
Right.
I don't have one carrier I
Makes
produce everything
sense.
for. So if you add all my numbers together, it's all these multiple carriers. I mean, I did a lot of money for United Healthcare, but
Yeah.
you know, an Anthem just because they had good products. Okay. And that's my thing.
Right.
You give me a good product, I can sell it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, just I've been talented. Think that level. I'm like, hey, that's where I'm like, I can tell you why the Eskimo wants to buy this ice over here versus that ice. 'Cause the pretty color is much better than that. I
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah.
But again, I tell people you need somebody in your back pocket to help you. And that's what my FMO does. People are like, well, who's USA Benefits? What's my FMO? My own business is my Brokers United group, but I do business. But my FMO supports us in our growth unbelievably. They're constantly, because health insurance is ever changing. It's an election year. Things are
Mhm.
changing. I mean,
Mhm.
Medicare is always, I am the only, so I can say I am the only broker out of all of a USA Benefits Group because we're one of the largest FMOs in the country. And people don't really know us because we're the backside of it. Like you don't know. I mean, they know United Healthcare, they're the carriers. So I am one of the few in there that do Medicare and U65, which we call people under 65.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that had a huge success because I just really focused on both sides.
Yeah.
And I just want to keep doing what I do. I'm my ADD probably helps a little bit. You know, you can learn quickly and catch on. My focus is not the best. But again, it's that growth, knowing what I want to do. I
Mhm.
have a high goal for this year.
Mhm.
You know, I want to pick up, you know, I know my clients right now, I'm sitting right around 700 clients.
Holy smokes.
I want to grow to over 1,000
This
Let's
year.
this
go.
year.
Well, I'll tell you what. I really have no doubt that you'll hit it.
No doubt.
I'm
I
setting
have
some
no
things
doubts.
up again. That pipeline. We always say,
100%.
don't let that pipe run empty.
Yep.
I've got some things in the work. I'm hoping, you know, I can pick up large groups too. So I have large groups. So I'd like to pick up another large group for this year. I want to pick up some more small businesses, Medicare. Medicare people get the least amount of help. As much advertising, as many remote brokers are out there, there's no really good brokers.
Yeah.
And they need the help. They're at the time of their lives, they're retired, they need help. People just don't talk to them.
Mhm.
And so that's one thing that my Medicare clients have always said. You just sit down with us and you actually talk to us. You know, and I want to grow Medicare because I feel they're our elders and we should give them the respect.
Yeah.
They've earned that right. You know, and Medicare is getting some bad juju coming up next year.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They need to talk to a good, responsible broker.
Yeah.
You know, and so these are things that I know in the background. I advise my clients, like, it's 2025, you better talk to me. And sad part is I meet with 700 clients. So this year I'll meet with 700 on top of my new clients coming in.
Wow.
So when I say 14 hours a day, it's no joke.
Well,
Jeez,
a lot of
Pete.
respect. You can do it. And you heard it here first, peeps. She wants to get to 1,000 clients. Blueprint. I can't even say our own name, right? Blueprint listeners, make sure you get a hold of Stephanie because help her to get over 1,000 clients. And in the process, I promise it's going to help you probably even more than it's going to help her.
Yeah.
Honestly. So
where can they reach her?
yeah, and that's what I was going to get into. You know, for all of our guests, we want to use the platform, the platform that we have,
You guys are growing, man. I'm telling you.
We're trying.
Yeah.
But we want to use our platform as a plug for you. So, Stephanie, where can the listeners find you? Socials, website, whatever you have.
So I'm supposed to plug this, even though I'm not a big TikTok person. But we
Let's
have
go.
a TikTok called Covered by Stephanie.
Hey.
So that was a simplified Covered by Stephanie. I have my phone number, Stephanie at USABG. That's my email. Easiest way you can get a hold of me.
Cool.
I mean, you can go to my website is brokersunitedgroup.com
Mm-hmm.
because USA Benefits Group, you have to use your last name. And I don't like, my last name is spelled with 2 I's. That always confuses people.
Yeah.
So,
Told you.
yeah, it's confusing.
Told you.
Yeah, people, I married it. I didn't name it. So, but no, so, our phone number is 937-619-9939. It gets straight to my assistant if you don't get me. But no, seriously, you don't have to be stuck in where you're at.
Yeah.
Just find out it's such an important part of our lifestyle. and if you want to become if you're a business owner and you're like, I want to add employees, reach out. You don't
Mhm.
have to get a traditional group that's going to cost you thousands of dollars. There's so many. I have clients who, they only pay $100 of the benefits, but on the individual side, I can get them a policy for $300. Well, if your employer's paying 100 and you're only paying 200, it's a win-win every day.
Yeah.
Well, are you just willing, if somebody calls you, to talk to them for 5 minutes and answer questions?
100%.
There you go.
There you go.
People don't understand that. You are willing to give 5 minutes to answer any questions they have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I give an hour. I mean, every appointment is an hour long.
Right.
There you go.
So there's really no harm in reaching out to her.
Absolutely
So
not.
you can find her on all the different platforms that she mentioned: email, phone, website,
Covered by Stephanie.
or
I love that.
covered by Stephanie on
I know.
TikTok.
That's creative.
I know.
I love it.
I love my
I-
assistant. She made it, and I was like, "What?" She's like, "Why don't use your last name? Don't use health insurance."
Yeah.
So
I love
Covered
it.
by Stephanie's good.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So.
Well, Stephanie, so much respect for you
Oh,
and
thank
what you're
you for
doing.
having me on. You
Oh
guys,
my gosh.
I was so geeking over coming. I'm not kidding you. I think I'm the Blueprints #1 fan now.
I think you are. You do hype us up.
Yeah, that's a fact. Well, we
Funny how
definitely
the lady
appreciate
that doesn't like getting hyped up is the one doing all the hyping for
Here's
us.
the-
Right.
because I have a son. I have a 19-year-old
Yeah.
man who he wants to own his own business in the IT world. And I look at you guys, and you are such big supporters of young entrepreneurs. I think
Yeah.
it's amazing because in young entrepreneurs, you can Google everything you want, everything, and mentors, everything. You guys are such true believers in it. I think it's amazing that you have that support. I think everybody needs it as a business owner. I think people need to get hyped up because sometimes
Yeah.
I forget after I had 1 week in December that I sold more than people want to sell in a whole year. And I had just had an amazing week, and we had gone to our celebration in Florida. On the airport the next day, I'm writing policies again. I'm just,
Yeah.
and my husband's like, just take a moment.
As an entrepreneur,
Enjoy.
you don't take moments.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's like,
you're
enjoy
going.
that plaque that's sitting in your hands. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I don't have time. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
I got to get this going. It's
Yeah.
busy season,
That's what makes you great.
So
That's
It
what
is
makes
what
you
it
great.
is what makes you great, but it does take people like Zach, the hype man, to actually recognize, like, hey, I am doing a good thing. Yeah,
so,
take a step back.
And
so thank you to you guys.
Yeah,
I
of
appreciate
course.
that.
And I'll put it here too. I don't know if it would be any interest, but I think that I could speak for both of us. If your son ever wants to just sit down and have a conversation about whatever it may be,
yeah,
we're more than willing.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, we could take him to your recommendation, good old Muddy Goose, or wherever.
I do like Muddy Goose.
Yeah,
Because in today's age, young business owners, we have so many resources. You're right.
100%.
But are they good resources?
Right. Which, I mean, let's be realistic here. It's not like we're sitting on the mountaintop. Like I'm 26,
but
you know, and
you're going through it. You're going
Yeah.
through, you're learning,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And
We're
you
on the
know,
journey.
and that's
Right.
what
We're on the
what
journey.
they need to understand. It's not people think you open a business tomorrow. Oh, I'm going to be a millionaire.
100%.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
thought that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I started now I'm making $100,000 a month. Well, it doesn't work that way.
No, because I open the sign up, I tell brokers all the time, and that's what Tomorrow's Deep Dive is about: business. Because you put the sign on the front door, it doesn't mean they're going to come running.
Preach.
And people feel I put the sign on the door. Why are they not? Why am I not selling?
Yeah.
You just can't.
I know.
So
Yeah. I could go on a tangent about that, but
Yeah.
well, as always, do you want to
I'll
Spencer?
hit us with some of God's word.
Yep.
Isaiah 26, 3-4. The Lord gives us perfect peace in those whose faith is in him. So always trust the Lord because he is forever our mighty rock. Sorry, my vision is terrible. So little Isaiah, that's what our son's named after. I love the book of Isaiah.
Oh, really?
So
I didn't
there you go.
realize that was.
Yeah. The Lord gives perfect peace in those whose faith is in him. So always trust the Lord because he is forever our mighty rock. So put your trust in him, but also put your trust in Stephanie that she's going to take care of you as far as your insurance goes.
And
Boom,
she
shameless
will.
plug.
Boom.
All right,
Let's
guys.
go.
thank you, gentlemen. I
Yes,
appreciate it.
it was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
So, as always, if you got some value from this episode, feel free to like and subscribe, and we will see you again next week on the Blueprint Podcast.
Peace.
Peace.